Most people will say that Bitcoin is a very risky gamble. And I agree. It's very risky not having any Bitcoin in your portfolio. Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Alain, and in this video I'm going to talk about my journey when it comes to Bitcoin, finance and investing in general. So let's start from the beginning. I was living in the UK, I was working there, I had a steady job, I had a steady income, and I was saving as much as I could on a monthly basis. I had no idea about investing or what to do with the money. It wasn't that much money, to be fair, but it was something. And just the fact that I was able to save every month a certain percentage of my income, I was happy with that for a while. But then I started reading about investing, about inflation, actually I should say, and how inflation works, and the fact that your money, as long as you keep it in the bank account, it just gets devalued year over year, and the fact that you're losing purchasing power. And because of this, then I searched on, well, what can you do to basically compensate for that, and that's how I read about investing. And I was a bit suspicious at the beginning. I was like, you're gonna put your money into something and maybe it goes up over time, so I wasn't so sure of what to do, or if I should invest, or if it's all a scam. Like I said, I had no investing knowledge whatsoever. However, being of Eastern European descent definitely did not make it easier. If you are from Eastern Europe or you grew up in that system, people tend to be a lot more distrustful of institutions, of governments, of police, of banks, of the system in general. So I guess part of it was because of that, of where I'm from. But like I said, I was living in the UK and I found out about this thing called investment ISA, which is an option that you have if you live there to invest a certain amount of money per year. I believe it was no more than £20,000 a year, and as long as you would keep your investment at less than that, you would pay no tax. Now obviously that's a pretty good deal, so I started just doing that. I remember I did some research and I found out there's this company called Vanguard. I think, yeah, there's still one of the brokers in the UK. Man, it's getting really windy. I hope you can hear me. Anyway, so I found out about Vanguard, which is like a broker that you can buy certain available ETFs or stocks or whatever, and that's what I did. I remember I did some research and I chose to invest some money in the S&P 500. Well, it was an ETF of S&P 500, which means it would basically mimic the S&P from the United States as close as possible. So I started investing in that month by month. And also at some point this time, when I was doing my research when it comes to investing, I found was a forum post, I think it was Reddit, I don't remember exactly, and it was a post about Bitcoin. I read it and it seems to be pretty interesting, and I thought, you know what, maybe I should look into this a bit more. So I Google searched, I remember, and I ended up on a website called, I believe it was called the Local Bitcoins. I think it's dead right now. I'm pretty sure it's dead. And that was an OTC kind of way of buying Bitcoin, which means, well, over the counter, not a proper exchange like that affects price. So I went there, I made an account, and I got in touch with one of the persons there. I think there were several options. The way you had to make payments, it was either by bank transfer. You can even have cash deals if the person who was selling the Bitcoin and yourself were, you know, living close by. You could meet somewhere, and you would give them the cash, and they would transfer you the Bitcoin. What I did was basically I transferred my cash. I did the bank transfer, and the next day, I remember I was being very suspicious about this, because basically I transferred them the cash and I had to wait until the next day to actually get the Bitcoin. I don't remember why, because these days the transactions are a lot faster. But I remember exactly that day that I paid, I sent the guy some money, and I was like, okay, when do I get the Bitcoin? He was like, next day. And I was like, what? Well, that's how long it takes for the transaction. And I remember thinking, you know, maybe I got scammed. Maybe all of this is just a scam. But that wasn't the case. Next day came around and I got some Bitcoin. And I said, great. Anyway, what happened, this was 2014. I didn't know at the time, but Bitcoin was in a downtrend, in a bear market. So the Bitcoin that I had just kept losing more and more value. And at some point, even though it was very cheap, it was a lot cheaper than it is right now. I think I paid like, I don't know, 300 pounds, you could get like one Bitcoin. But because it was on a downtrend, the price was just going lower and lower and lower. I found another spot, and hopefully there is no wind here. I don't think there's any wind here, and you can hear me better. So like I was saying, I bought some Bitcoin. It was 2014, and it was very cheap back then. But 2 or 3 months after I bought it, I remember the pound equivalent of that Bitcoin. So I bought like, I don't know, 300 something pounds worth of Bitcoin. In about 2 or 3 months, that decreased to less than 200. So it was like, I think it was 180 pounds, only like 2 or 3 months later. And I was thinking to myself, this is probably just a scam. It's not going to amount to anything, and I just forgot about it. I said, I'm not gonna sell it, I'm gonna keep it, because you never know in the future, and I completely forgot about it. So while this happened, I also did some research in a more traditional way of investing, like I said. So I read about the investment ISA that's possible in the UK. So like I said, I started buying some of that. I made an account, and I was buying each month, I don't know, 150 or 200 pounds. I set up my bank account with a standing order, and I was just buying every month. And I did that for a while. Fast forward to about, I would say, 2017. I was working and at work, and a colleague of mine, an English guy that I was working with, told me, because we spoke about Bitcoin and so on, and investing, and he told me, have you checked the price of Bitcoin? And I said, no, I haven't looked at it in years. And I said, just look at it right now. And I remember price went up like significantly, and it exceeded the price that I bought it in 2014 by a huge margin. Again, I bought Bitcoin, I forgot about it, I didn't do a proper research on it, and 2017 happened to be one of those years when Bitcoin went on a absolutely crazy bull market. And I remember I was on the sidelines and I was just watching price go high, just higher and higher and higher, and I was like, oh my god, this is crazy. And I started doing some proper research this time. Like I said, I started doing some proper research. I read the white paper, I read about the financial crisis of 2008 and so on. That led me into an even bigger rabbit hole. And I mean, I'm old enough to remember the 2008 financial crisis, but like I said, I have no financial education whatsoever, no financial knowledge. I had no idea what that means. I had no idea that if you have cash, that's an opportunity for you to buy everything at a discount. I didn't know any of these things. But and one of the things that led me back to taking a deeper look at Bitcoin was when I watched, if you guys remember, there was a movie called The Big Short. Now I love this movie because it was very interesting to me as someone who was getting into finance, but it was also very scary for obvious reasons, because he actually exposed what all these institutions and big hedge fund managers were doing. And spoiler alert if you haven't watched it, but the movie ends with all this regulation being put in place so we avoid a situation like that ever happening again. But it's just like, oh, actually no. And then they change it to, well, no, they're actually doing exactly the same thing again. And yeah, that was a bit scary to me, to be honest. That was a bit scary when it comes to investing, and that was a bit because I also, when I watched the movie, I remembered again, especially if you're from the United States, and if you're old enough, you're gonna remember Barack Obama's speech. I think he was just in his first months as a US president, and he said, yeah, we have to bail the banks out, we have to bail them out. They made very poor decisions, but it didn't matter. And the reason why I made this connection is because I remember the actor, I think the guy's name is Steve Carell. Yeah, Steve Carell. So he has a moment in the movie when he says they knew about it. All these bankers, they knew what was gonna happen, but they didn't care. They didn't care. And what happened? Well, the average taxpayer had to bail them out. That's why I remember that Barack Obama speech. Basically, we have to bail them out. We have to bail them out, which means basically the average taxpayer will have to pay now from their own pockets because some bankers made some bad decisions. Like I said, very good movie, and I watch it every now and then because I like it a lot. So then, after that, after having done some proper research and finding out that Bitcoin basically was created to avoid a situation like this, I sold all my ETF that I had in the S&P 500 and I started buying Bitcoin. This was 2018 already, yes, summer 2018. Again, I guess I was lucky in a way, but the price had decreased by this time significantly. It was a 2017 top. I think it went to almost $20,000, and then it crashed significantly to like $3,500. So I started buying, I think, at around $4,000 or $5,000. So that's a good price considering what the price is today. So I started buying. I started DCAing right then and then. And I never looked back ever since. And the more time went by, whatever I was saving, I was just exchanging, dollar cost averaging into BTC. And it was obvious to me, slowly and slowly. I'll be honest, I was a bit still suspicious at first. Maybe this is not a good idea. That's why you should probably start and investing an amount that you're comfortable with, because time in the market beats money in the market, which to me translates as follows: the more time you spend in this market and in this asset, the more and more confident you will be that this is the right choice, which was the case with me. So the more time passed by, the more confidence I gained that this is definitely the right choice for me. So I just, whatever I saved, I DCA, dollar cost average, just buy. And that was a very good decision for myself. To me, it's not a quick get rich quick scheme. It's just an insurance. It's just me having my own money in my own account that I can control and nobody has access to it. Not a bank, not the government, nobody. I can just take it with me and go wherever I want. I mean, what kind of asset, in what asset you will invest that will give you those options? Good luck finding one. I'm not here to tell you what to do. This is not financial advice. This is just my experience. But sometimes one of the best decisions that you can do is to be a contrarian and do the opposite what other people do. I'm still struggling with that sometimes. Remembering Warren Buffett's quote of when people are greedy, you should be fearful, and when others are fearful, you should be greedy. That's very easy to say, but trust me, it's very hard to implement. The herd mentality, it's a real thing, trust me. And it's embedded into our system. It's like a survival mechanism. And that mechanism worked well because we are here, we exist as a species. But when it comes to investing, trust me, that can make you take the wrong decisions at the wrong time. What else should I add? I probably should add that most people around me didn't understand what I was doing, even though I told a couple of people. I told quite a few people, but yeah, no one actually paid attention except one person. Most of the other people was, in and out, and that's it. Which is probably, I should make another video on that because that's an interesting topic. Thanks for watching. If you have made it all the way to the end, if you are on your own path for financial freedom or just questioning the system, drop a comment below because I would like to hear other people's opinion on this. Having said that, I hope I will see you in the next one. Take care and bye bye. See ya.